Hi everyone.
Hello.
All right. Hello and welcome to our session about how to embrace event-driven architecture with SAP Integration Suite. I'm Jannis from the product management team, joined today by Christoph, who's responsible for strategic projects at SAP Integration Suite. Before we start, in case you have any questions, just put them into the chat. We have a bunch of experts behind the scenes who will answer them, and we also have a Q&A part at the end of the session, so we also will take some questions live. All right, let's get started. So event-driven architecture is a very hot topic at the moment, a lot of interest there. Chris, can you give some more insights about the motivation, why it is so important, and what role plays SAP?
Sure. So if you talk to our customers, what they tell us, they're on the journey to the cloud. They're adopting the S4 as the new digital core. And the overarching goal is to become more agile, to continuously innovate with their business processes. So somehow you need to bring that automation and composition layer on top of your ERP. Now we have APIs, that's already good. That gives a lot of modularity to build new business processes. But with EDA, and that's the cool part of it, we are adding the chattiness to the ERP. So there's a lot of process going on within ERP and the real time using our HANA technologies, of course, in S4. But how can we share that real time, that chattiness outside to the other connected applications downstream to the process? That's what basically EDA can do to business process to become more real time. And to explain this a little bit, I want to take you to an example that I took from retail, actually a very personal experience. So I like to go to the Netherlands. Actually shopping has become super easy, though it's a vacation place for me because my favorite supermarket has created this nice little application for me that shows me all their offerings, very local to the store, so I can get there, over there, and the up-to-date prices, price promotions. I can go there, check out, and collect some loyalty points as well. So it's super convenient to do that. And they achieve this because they can actually share up-to-date inventory, pricing, article information to the stores, to the loyalty application, to the commerce channel. And they're doing that using advanced event mesh. So they're creating what we call events and publishing them to all those consumers and make them available in real time and consistently. So I see what's really relevant because it's up to date in the store. And another example how you can use EDA to innovate in that use case is a price promotion campaign. So take apples, for example. Apples have an expiry date, and maybe there is quite some stock in the inventory in the various stores. Now, weather forecast event says over the weekend it's going to be very hot in the southern regions. So business decides, well, let's run a price promotion campaign, reduce prices for those regions on apples, promote them to all channels, make customers come and buy to, of course, not lose the fresh produce, so we are choosing waste. And of course you get happy customers because you can make a bargain. So how would you do that with EDA? On the one hand side, you have a product event, you have the price event that you will take, combine with the weather event to create a new assortment, run the campaign. So you trigger that task. And second, then you will create new article assortment information with the reduced price and share it to the point of sales, share it to the channels, share it to the mobile application, so that everyone sees that campaign very consistently. And you're using ADA for that. So all in all, ADA concept is something is happening that's of interest to the business. You want to do something about it, run some logic, start a campaign. And then you're changing data, like the assortment and the article information with new prices, and you want to share that data to subsequent systems. So what we need to have then is events in applications. So I talked about shadiness of ERP. So we need to have events as a significant state of change, and events might describe the inventory that I have in the stores, in the warehouse, the product information, of course. And when something changes around that, the system will emit notification events that there is a change or an object has been created. Secondly, we can create article and inventory events with a lot more richer information, which we call data events. And we share that data events, for example, to the point of sales. Employees can prepare the shelves, point of sale system knows the new price, so you can check out. And I'll see it in my loyal applications. So there you put more payload information on it. Overall, we're using our event services to implement that publish subscribe pattern. We come to that in a second. But important is it that we at SAP decided to use a standard to base the event content descriptions and the metadata on the cloud event standard, such that all applications that are event enabled by SAP will provide their catalog events that they support in that specification. So here I put a small scrapped example on the product business object and the product event with some selected attributes that, for example, tells you that this is a perishable product and it's of a particular product type perishable. So once you have such a standard, of course, you can share those events. We can use that into our tools to make it easy to consume events. And you can even use that standard, of course, to integrate other systems, non-SAP systems, to the event ecosystem. So to summarize it up, what we can learn from the example is, and I want to get across, is eventing and EDA is not just for microservice. It actually enables you to implement real-time business, to make faster decisions, to make better use of your data, end-to-end business process within S4, but also in the connected subsystems. Secondly, of course, EDA does a lot of good to disseminate information easier and remove the batch and the delay, so processes get faster. And wasteful polling can be reduced. So instead of calling back and continuously checking for updates and grabbing data, you'll just get the data pushed by your subscription. So EDA in overall, we can say, is quite a scalable concept that allows you to scale better. The other thing that we can learn is flexibility and agility. So it's very easy to connect further consumers to an event mesh, to an event bus, without going back to the ERP, without going back to your integration layer, do some configurations, because you can just change the subscription, maybe build a new app, just connect it to the bus, change the subscription, and get the events via that subscription without going back to the source system. On the business side, of course, you can think of working with events in your organization as not just a technology, not just a tool, but actually as a practice, very much like APIs, where you would ask the question, which APIs do we need? Which API does the consumer need? So an API-first paradigm. And we very much believe you should also think about having an event-driven paradigm in your integration principles and integration architectures to start with. If you look at our offering, of course, event services we make available via the business technology platform. So we'll have our automation tools that help you to automate tasks, consume an event, triggers a task that you want to automate, or implement some logic, like checking weather conditions and inventory levels, or build your own events and data, like creating an article and a new assortment and then share that out. And then, of course, we have the SAP Integration Suite with the known capabilities like cloud integration, API management for that automation and integration layer that I talked about. And we added the advanced event mesh service recently to our Integration Suite family, like about a year ago. And we really believe that API-led integrations, event-based integrations go hand in hand very well. They're like brother and sisters. So that's why we bring them together under one suite. I mentioned the applications. So really our intent is not just to provide you with technologies, but to provide you with a comprehensive EDA offering. So we have the event enabling of our applications. So all those applications support events, standard events. You can browse them in the standard event catalog. You'll see it in a second. And we have standard event consumers like our automation tools in the BTP. Of course, applications themselves can be event consumers. And it can also be third parties. So we're really playing it as an open ecosystem play. And then we'll have event mesh services that help you to share events across the enterprise, any place, anywhere. The event catalogs to understand what the standards of events is that we provide, but also build your own catalogs with your events. And it plays together with event mediation. Not all systems might be event enabled, so you can easily connect an integration flow to a queue and vice versa, communicate and wrap your events or trigger a task in a connected system. So I mentioned the chattiness of ERP and what we're doing on the event enabling side for our applications. So let me double click a little bit on the S4HANA side. So you can find around about 600 standard, mostly notification events that our developers implement as part of the standard. And if they're in S4, use the so-called ABAP RESTful application programming model. You heard about it, short, we usually call it RAP. So events are part of the standard programming model of our applications and of our digital core, and also standard events are exposed via RAP. Now you can use that programming model as well to build derived events, like take a notification event, mesh in further attributes, and create your own data event out of it. For older releases, we're working with a partner and recommend to use an add-on to event enable your older releases, all connected to our event infrastructure, Advanced Event Mesh and Integration Suite. I mentioned Advanced Event Mesh, a pretty new capability since 1 year, provided as BTP. You can easily run your own broker if you have a CPA account, put in your credits and start up your own broker. But let me talk about the concept of mesh for a second and maybe the difference to just a single broker. So we have 4 brokers shown here that are connected into a mesh. So Advanced Event Mesh allows you to actually spin up a broker and deploy it in a particular IT environment. That could be the SAP Cloud. That could be a hyperscaler data center, but it could also be an IT environment in your factories, in your stores, the customer experience plane. So that will allow you to keep event traffic that is local, and let the developers that build your customer experience use that broker to develop, and have other developers that build your digital supply chain use that other broker in that other environment. Still, all those brokers will work together as one mesh. So if I publish like a product update event from S4 on that broker, and I have a subscriber in the factory to subscribe to such product update events, the event mesh will automatically route that message, and we call it dynamic message routing, to that broker. And it will not route it to other brokers if there are no subscribers for that event. So highly efficient and highly flexible deployment model of a mesh that can also easily incremental grow. Add another factory, add another cloud. And you control that, and that's the single pane of glass that we provide to you with the tooling from the event management console. First of all, you can design your events, bring up in your own portal, and you can then deploy them, deploy the brokers, operate the brokers, define the topics queues. That's what you would do there. We see it in the demo. And the event management console, of course, also allows you to operate your mesh. Like we have tools for supportability to figure out where a particular message has been flown to. It's a rather complex distributed system, of course, that we're building here. So we want to make it simple to operate and give you the tools to have full visibility on your event flows. Now, I talked a little bit about tools, maybe time to really look at it. Jannis, I think you prepared some demo and can show us to the tools.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Chris, for the great presentation so far. And let me show you how it looks like. And we start now with the SAP Business Accelerator Hub, where you can then explore the standard events. So via hub.sap.com, you can access the Business Accelerator Hub. Here you can see the different products. Let's have a look at the SAP S4HANA. Jump there to the events, and now you see all available standard event objects. Let's search for sales orders. And here we can then see the sales order event object, and we have different events available for a sales order, whether a sales order gets created, gets changed, gets deleted, as well as if the delivery status changes, for example. And we also have different events available on item level. If we click on the View Event Reference, you can see more detailed information for each event and also the payload that's published. So as you can see, it's not a pure notification event. It's then a mix between a notification and a data event, a so-called decision event with multiple attributes available. And if we stick to our example from the beginning, our product event, we can also look for that. And from the product event, there we see there's two events, the product created and product change event, that are available. And also here, we can again look at the payload, and there we see a bit less attributes there, so product category, and product type, if it's maintained, will be published with the event. That's how you can explore the events if you want to publish them. For example, in the S4, we see here that we need a channel, and with the channel, we can then expose the events. The business partner is already there. And let's create a new one. So we can just browse now all the available events. As you can see, quite a number, around 600 business events currently available. And here we can then also search for our product. We'll also having earlier. And here we then also see at the top our product event, and we are interested in all product events that are there. Then we can say create, and that's how easy then you can also expose events from your S4 system. Yeah, that's it from the event publisher side. Let's have a look at our advanced event mesh. The advanced event mesh is distributed into different components. You can see at the top the event management part. There you have your designer, where you can design your event-driven architecture components. You can also browse the catalog. We have an event streaming section with the cluster manager for your brokers, and also the mesh manager to create and manage your event meshes. And last but not least, at the bottom, you also have the option for monitoring in the event insights part. For now, let's first have a look at the mesh manager, so how the event mesh looks like. There we have a nice map, and on that map you can then see in detail how your mesh is built up. We have 3 brokers, one in the US, on Google Cloud, one in Europe running on AWS, and one in India running on Azure. And all these brokers are connected together through a network, and they can exchange events back and forth with each other, as mentioned. And if we want to create a new broker, we can have a look in the cluster manager. Just press the plus button there. Then we have to provide a name for the broker. And you also can then choose between different sizes of the broker. So we have small brokers, but also very, very big brokers. It's then depending on your use case what broker you want to choose. And there are also different deployment options, either in the public cloud, we've already seen the hyperscalers, but it's also possible in the private cloud or on your own Kubernetes environment. In this case, let's choose Australia on Azure and just press create. Now it would take around 6 minutes until the broker is created. Let's just skip that right for now, as we don't have the time. So as we can see, the broker got successfully created. We can now access the broker as well by clicking on it. Then we have a short overview about it, and in the manage section, you can then also create queues. At the beginning, of course, the broker would be empty, there would be no queues, and then you can just add a queue, provide a name, press create, and then apply, and then a new queue gets created. And the next step would be we could then create topic subscriptions for the queue and also connect then our consumers with their queue. So you can see it's quite easy to do that, to explore events, to publish events, and then also to build your own event mesh to consume and distribute those events alongside with your consumers. What's important to notice is that for the S4, if you want to connect the S4 with the advanced event mesh, there is a direct connection which has been released recently for on-premise and for the private cloud edition. For the public cloud edition, this will be released next year in February. All right, let's continue with our presentation. It's already the last slide that we have. And let's have a short recap and have a look again at the architecture. So we have here our event infrastructure in the center, our advanced event mesh. There we have the streaming, we have the dynamic message routing. that takes care of distributing the events in case there are subscribers between the different brokers. We have our mesh management and also the event portal where you can then find the events from your company. And important to mention that you can also combine it with SAP Integration Suite. So for example, the cloud integration capability to do event mediation. So in case, for example, you have a legacy application that's not yet event enabled, you can then do event mediation, you can do protocol conversion or a payload transformation, as well as orchestration. If we now look at our SAP systems, whether it's on cloud or on premise, we have then event sources and also event consumers in the cloud as event sources. We have then extensible standard events as well as the ABAP RESTful application programming model for custom events. The SAP Event Broker you can also use when you want to exchange events between cloud applications as well as extensions. If we look at the on-premise part, there as well exist extensible standard events, the ABAP RESTful application programming model for custom events, and also the partner add-on for custom events, and also to enable your ECC to be event-driven. What's also important is that it's not only SAP, right? You can also connect third-party systems, so you can cross vendor boundaries. If you have their applications, you can also subscribe and publish events from third-party vendors, and you can also forward the events to third-party event services. So to sum it up, Advanced Event Mesh and SAP Integration Suite really help you to enable a hybrid and heterogeneous landscape across SAP and non-SAP systems to really event enable that. We have there a comprehensive offering from event sources, from the event infrastructure to the event consumers. And yeah, we really believe it's the right tool to make not only your microservices event-driven, but your whole business processes, so that you can also react then on real time. All right, that's it for the presentation. Let's have a look at the Q&A section. What kind of questions you have?
Live Q&A.
All right, there's one question from Laura. I have an on-premise system. Does the traffic have to go via the public internet?
Yeah, it's a technical question, but it's a good question. So I mentioned the mesh can be built out of many brokers, and the brokers can be deployed in IT environments. And what do I mean by that? Actually, you can choose a private environment, which could be your Kubernetes cluster in your on-prem IT environment to deploy a broker in. So if you do that, then this traffic around that broker would not go to the internet. So it really depends on how you manage your broker deployments. But in general, you can also support running the broker in your IT environment that you control. And then in that case, the traffic doesn't have to go to the public internet. Another question.
All right. Let's have a look.
Yeah, I mean, take that one. SAP Event Mesh does not cover all business events and has some limitations. We don't call it limitations. It's by design that we carved out the service plan to have a particular size of resources, how much queues and traffic and so on. So the question is, should we go for AM and a SAPIO? A SAPIO is the event add-on from a partner. Or is there a roadmap to enable these events? So maybe you want to take it? Shall I take it home?
Yeah, we can take it.
Well, in general, the event services themselves are not the sources, right? So we distinguish the sources from the event services. So very much SAP Event Mesh can connect to all the events and all the producers and consumers that we have shown in the presentation earlier. So if you're missing an event, it's rather building your own custom event. And for that, you would need to either go to RAP if it's S4 on the later release, or if it's an old backend system, like an older ERP, that we would in fact recommend a SAPIO to use. In general, AAM is our lead product to build enterprise-scale event-driven architecture, so we definitely recommend AAM. If you have simple use cases, notifications, and want to get it started with extensibility, you can take Event Mesh as your first broker, but we believe you'll end up and want to go for a mesh architecture with multiple brokers anyway. So thanks. I hope you found something interested in our presentation. Thanks, Jannis, and hope to see you soon.
Thanks. Bye-bye.